Okay, so hello everyone. We're here just after the end of the Gartner BI Summit in London at 2012. And so Jason Rose, thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Timo.
And Timo Elliott. Jason was on the panel session and I did the SAP session, vendor session in the show. And what we'd like to do is just tell me, what did you think was interesting about the show?
Sure. I mean, it's always interesting to get together at the Gartner BI Summit here in London. Incredible amount of attendance. I think the interest in BI is absolutely as high as it's ever been in terms of market interest, and that's borne out by the most recent CIO priorities, where analytics and BI #1 with a bullet. In terms of spending priorities, which was reinforced here at the conference, and a willingness of people to travel here. So it was a great diversity of people from across the organization with a huge interest in business intelligence.
Analytics hotter than ever for sure. Yeah, big show. We were packed in there for the night sessions. There wasn't a empty chair, and to the point where they've had to move it to Barcelona next year. And I think that's because they didn't have enough space here in the hotel in London. So absolutely heading the right direction. One of the things I thought was interesting is it's not business intelligence anymore.
It's business analytics. Imagine, we were business analytics for the last 12 months, now we're analytics. Maybe we'll get Gartner to follow us to analytics in 2013. What do you think?
Yeah, so that was the big news of the show, is it's now, there was this long-term business intelligence, performance management, and
analytic applications, yeah.
Anyway, so there's now the new umbrella term is business analytics, following what several vendors had already talked about, following what IDC, I guess, already uses.
Yeah, absolutely. For the
generally recognizing that this is called analytics. We talked about how hot it was. One of the best sessions for me was Dan Summer, who did a nice one on the BI trends, so saying hotter than ever. So he was saying 10% growth, they haven't got the final numbers, but 10% growth this year. And back to the #1 slot. It was number 5 the last 2 years, back to #1 for CIOs, and a separate study for CFOs. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's just hot. What else?
So big things at the show here, mobility everywhere. I think it's pretty safe to say that if you're going around touting a mobile device, you're not differentiated anymore. Pretty much everybody and their brother has a nice glossy iPad application. So guess what? If you're a sales rep and you're watching this and you're not out there with your glossy iPad wowing executives, all of your competition is.
That's right.
So very much ubiquitous.
It came out as one of the panel sessions. It was clear that just everybody thought, yes, absolutely, it has to be part of the mobile.
Now, one surprise at the show, in memory as a topic, I thought was actually one that was mentioned several times throughout the show as a major trend in BI and business analytics. And I was gratified to hear actually some of the speakers in the in-memory section actually go, so who's heard of SAP HANA and has been talked to about it? And literally 30 to 40% of the room put up their hands. So not only is it a topic that SAP we love to talk about, but something in general in the market that I think is really picking up steam and traction.
Yeah, I think it was James Richardson. I think I got the slides. I couldn't attend the session, but he called, in the slides it says, in memory is a quantum leap that can profoundly change applications today. And at another session around data warehousing, he said the customers are talking to him about completely rethinking their data warehousing strategy from scratch, faced with these new technologies. So it really is a step change, a new opportunity. One of the things that interested me about the keynote in particular is last year they talked about the 3 V's or 4 V's, so velocity, variety, and volume, and there's
value.
Andy Bitter likes value a bit. But it was still a little bit about the technology changes. And so the big thing for me was last year a lot of technology change. This year the keynote emphasized a lot more innovation, not about the technology, but business innovation.
Absolutely.
You have to use this to make a difference. They really emphasized this notion of decision points, or it's about making decisions and going the extra mile, not just the data, but really making a difference in the organization. So that was my feedback from the keynote.
And it was interesting, and along with that, some concepts that kind of don't change over 20 years, BI Competency Centers, although with the move to BA, obviously they've changed the name to the Business Analytics Team, or BAT. And if you happen to be the head of a BICC, maybe you can look forward to being a Batman someday.
Absolutely. I went to several sessions. There were some great sessions, basically echoing the same lessons that we've tried to load over the last how many years, but just it's about the business, it's about culture, it's about organization, it's not really about the technology. And Gartner, I have to say, has some great content around that area. If anybody's a subscriber, then I'd really say go and spend time looking at that stuff. There was also the Customer Excellence Awards. What did you think about that?
I thought it was actually really interesting. I thought it was very nice that the charitable organization that was focused on youth unemployment.
Medway Youth Trust.
Won it with some interesting predictive algorithms, also using text. So it was a good mashup of textual analysis with predictive algorithms and correlation. So I thought there's maybe a little too much infomercials in there on other vendors and certain other pieces of it, but overall I thought the ultimate winner was actually a great choice and a really interesting and innovative application of BI to a real world problem.
Yeah, I was voting for them because they met the criteria. The theme of this year was innovation, and
yes.
they clearly did something that was innovative, and they were saying that everybody else was calling them to help. But roughly what they were doing was doing text analytics to try and figure out of the wealth of data they had about youths and unemployed youths, what was the most important to be able to predict whether somebody would get into trouble into the future, and assigning that as a score that everybody could then use to concentrate the limited resources on the people that needed it most. So yeah, I thought it was the clear winner and a
absolutely. And the Shared Services Center they set up to help other similar organizations around the UK, I thought was the icing on the cake, kind of how they were sharing that best practice with other organizations.
One thing that was a little bit missing from the keynote, you know what I'm going to say?
I think it's big.
Yes. So interesting, because they talked about business and business innovation, it meant that they didn't really talk about one of the big themes that has come up over the last year in terms of technology, is this notion of big data.
Absolutely.
Everybody means different things by it, but in particular, Hadoop and some of those technologies are coming in. It did come up a lot more on the second day, when they talked a lot more about how data warehousing changing, and this notion of a sort of logical data warehouse that takes into a lot of other data. But any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, big data from at an analyst conference is always interesting, because analysts tend to have great definitions for these things and incorporating technologies like Hadoop. But at the end of the day, I think we've been dealing with big data since the dawn of BI. It just terabytes didn't exist. Hey, when you had an 8 megabyte hard drive, that was big data 30 years ago or 25 years ago. Now it's terabytes. I think the volume and variety angle adds a new element of difficulty, as it were, to the tricks we need to apply to tease insight out of that information. But overall, I think most customers are dealing with the variety of information now and how to fit that into their BI strategy. And I think that's our challenge as SAP, to really make sure that we're painting the vision and actually allowing people to incorporate these unusual types of information like video, blog posts, social sentiment data into their BI initiatives.
I was trying to think what was the big theme for me, and I think I've settled on it's this notion of flow and iteration, that in every area we've gone from batch-driven processes. I build my BI project and then I invite people, or I do my analytics in a very staged process. So I think this notion of flow and iteration and failing fast, quickly, and testing, and it actually came up in the invited speaker. It was Tim Harford from he's actually with Financial Times. He's the undercover economist. This is great byline in the Financial Times, and it's a great book. If anybody hasn't read it, it's a great book. It's a little bit like Freakonomics, same style. But the basic theme is that, and I talked about this in my presentation, where it's not only about making analytics better, it's about taking analytics and truly embedding it in business processes. And then even ultimately taking it even further, where the analytics almost becomes the business process, in that you do analysis up front to even iteratively personalize, determine your product. Your product couldn't exist unless it was a creation of the analytics you're doing in real time. So I think that's a fascinating trend that is not necessarily new. There are other industries that have done it, but it's now accessible for more people thanks to this technology.
Well, that's what drives the business impact, right? That willingness to experiment with your business model, to experiment with the types of information you're actually looking at and analyzing, to look for the correlations and the trends, and then really take action upon those new points of information. So I think that's going to continue to evolve and iterate, to your point.
The other thing I like about the show is always that it's a great opportunity to meet up with people that are part of the sort of SAP and business object ecosystem. So there were some partner vendors who have some great solutions around the technology in the trade show area.
Absolutely.
So it was great catching up with people. The other thing that I spent a fair amount of time on Twitter. I think I was the second highest in the end. I throttled back a bit. I was doing too much, but I was surprised that the Twitter and the social aspect of it really wasn't very present here. This is one of the least I've seen at conferences recently.
It was not integrated in. They didn't have a big board kind of showing the hashtag and the tweets going by. It wasn't used in any of the Q&A sessions like I've seen at other places, other than Timo did get to make a guest star appearance during the MQ mega session, which was quite entertaining. But otherwise, you're right. I think there's an opportunity for Gartner to take more full advantage, I think, of the social media data that's kind of being generated by the 1,200 or 1,100 people that are actually at this event.
So I find it's interesting is that even the Gartner analysts who normally tweet a lot, Andreas Bitter and others, they're so busy at these events doing one-on-ones with people that they don't actually get to tweet. So they're actually less present than they are the rest of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a tweet from Merv Adrian near the end of the day and I was like, holy smokes, he's actually here.
So any other final wrap-ups? What did you think? Was there any big themes that you think we've missed from?
No, I think overall, again, just the hotness of the topic right now, the confluence of in-memory, the mobility being so ubiquitous. I think it really is a testament to the vibrant market that we're playing in, and the leadership position SAP is looking to take.
Yeah, great. So well, thank you very much for your time.
Great, thank you, Timo.
And we look forward to talking to you again, or maybe seeing you at a conference sometime soon.
All right, thank you. Take care.
Thanks.